K-pop Demon Hunters has become the biggest thing for Netflix in their entire history, racking up 325 million views to date. Over 500 million hours around the world consumed watching this movie again and again and again. And if you thought the money train for streaming titles like K-pop Demon Hunters was a non-starter outside of the streaming service itself, Netflix is about to prove it wrong in one of the most unexpected ways imaginable. Yep, you're seeing that right. Burgers and fries. And you're not going to believe some of the estimates coming out from Wall Street analysts now on what this is going to do in the first few days. Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see all of you out there once again. And if you are like one of the many watching this video not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. Make sure to join us every Sunday afternoon right here at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show. Now, of course, I'm not like my 20-year-old daughter. I'm not a huge K-pop Demon Hunters fan, but I do have mad respect for what Sony and Netflix achieved with a cultural moment like this film. Neither Sony or Netflix knew what they had on their hands until it happened, but like we always do, we want to talk about the business economics of this deal and what it's turning into. And of course, they're making a sequel for this coming out in another couple of years. But let's take a walk down memory lane first to see just how incredible this is, because these are the kinds of animated success stories that we used to get almost exclusively from the Walt Disney Company. But now there is so much more competition out there, and obviously the cultural zeitgeist has moved much more to the anime and K-pop type space for these same kids that 20 and 25 years ago, you know, the kids back then would have been watching a lot more Disney type stuff. Well, that's not the case anymore. Let's check out the deal here they did with Sony, because as you know, we've talked about many times, Sony licenses all of their content exclusively to Netflix, meaning if Sony puts out a movie in the theaters, something like GOAT, for example, that is going to go exclusively to Netflix in the pay one window after it leaves theaters and go to streaming. And for that, Netflix oftentimes will pay nearly the entire cost of production for a film like GOAT, which was reportedly around $80 million or so. K-pop Demon Hunters was one of those extra riders on the contract that Sony struck with Netflix. They have to make one exclusive streaming-first title for Netflix. K-pop Demon Hunter was the one that came up that particular year. Let's look at the deal here. Behind K-pop Demon Hunter's sequel deal, Netflix awards Sony a $15 million cash bonus for the first film. Now, we talked a little bit about this a few months ago, trying to educate folks on how this worked, and that Sony actually turned a pretty good profit, a risk-free profit, on this film. Sony reportedly spent about $100 million to produce the K-pop Demon Hunters film for Netflix, of which Netflix paid the entire freight of that $100 million. They also then gave Netflix an extra $25 million, basically a pre-built-in profit margin on top of the $100 million they covered for Sony's production costs. And that was good for Sony. Of course, they didn't know at the time what was going to happen with this once it reached Netflix. But if you think about this on a flyer, Sony would have spent $100 million on K-pop Demon Hunters. That's more than what they spent to make GOAT that went in theaters. Then they would have had to have spent another $50 to $100 million promoting the film into theaters had it gone there, which means the break-even point in theatrical, they would have had to have gotten to $400 million just to basically cover their costs. If they wanted to actually make the $25 million that in profit that Netflix gave them, then they would have had to have gotten to at least $450. Nobody knew at the time that that could happen. So at the time Sony did it, seemed like a good move.
I'll make that deal. How about you, Udovich? You make that deal?
I'd make that deal.
But as we just told you, Netflix then in November sweetened the deal, thanking Sony for making such a big success for them. Gave them an extra $15 million, raising Sony's total take to $40 million in profit on a $100 million production budget that, again, Netflix already covered. But a lot of people have questions on the money behind K-pop Demon Hunters just being on streaming. That is to say, merchandising and music licensing, so on and so forth. Well, according to The Hollywood Reporter, Sony also collects a margin of the production budget as Netflix is paying the Sony-owned animation company ImageWorks, home of the Spider-Verse franchise, for work on the movie. Sony also receives a piece of the soundtrack sales for K-pop Demon Hunters, as well as music publishing fees for certain songs. Merchandising rights, however, belong solely to Netflix. So if you're Netflix and you've probably already made a ton of money from the music distribution rights for this film that Sony also shared a piece in, think of not only how many times that this movie has been watched, 325 million times on Netflix. It has to be at least 10 times as many listens that have happened to songs like Golden from the film on places like iTunes or Amazon or Spotify. Every time somebody clicks play, just like whenever somebody watches a YouTube video, whether they have a subscription or for premium or not, that content creator, like me in this case, as you're watching that video, is going to make a couple of pennies on that watch. But scale this up to the hundreds of millions and billions of times on the music side, Netflix has got to be making a killing on the licensing side for the music, and so is Sony. But here come the merchandising rights. According to some industry analysts out there, the brand new K-pop Demon Hunter Happy Meal, releasing at McDonald's today, March 31st, is expected to potentially do $100 million in sales in just the first few days. Dude. This Netflix-McDonald's collaboration should be golden for the Golden Arches. McDonald's has enjoyed its share of success with themed limited edition meals, from one tied to hip-hop star Travis Scott to a more recent one built around Dr. Seuss Grinch's character. But the fast food chain may be about to see its sales truly go up, up, up with its K-pop Demon Hunters meals. Veteran restaurant industry analyst Mark Kalinowski thinks so. He told MarketWatch that sales of K-pop Demon Hunters meals could potentially reach $100 million even in just its initial days. Now, I can't even begin to really explain the scale of this. And you think about all the cross promotions and the licensing that McDonald's has spent collectively billions and billions of dollars on doing over the last many years, bringing in things like Disney titles and Marvel titles or Star Wars or Transformers or so on and so forth. All these different big popular, big blockbuster movie IPs that they'll partner with the movie studios to make kids Happy Meals and produce exclusive toys that they want to get kids in to collect. I don't ever remember reading an article about a McDonald's promotional licensing tie-in to a film where you had analysts out there projecting $100 million plus in sales on that licensing deal in the first few days. K-pop Demon Hunters menu items will include breakfast meals themed around the Saja Boys from the film and a lunch-dinner themed one around Huntrix. Demon Hunter heroines Rumi, Mira, and Zoe are set to be available starting March 31st, Tuesday, March 31st, 2026 for a limited time. McDonald's didn't specify prices for the meals in its announcement this week, but the recent Grinch meal cost more than $15 in some McDonald's locations.
Shut up and take my money.
So just like seeing a movie in IMAX, you're going to pay a premium price for the premium product, and that's the same case here because, again, McDonald's spends a lot of money licensing these type of properties in. And you have to wonder how much money Netflix raked in for McDonald's, because let me tell you what, McDonald's doesn't turn these promotions out on a dime. These promotions, generally speaking, are booked years in advance. A great recent example is when the last Captain America Brave New World movie came out. A full, almost a year after it was supposed to. If you recall, McDonald's had a promotional tie-in with Captain Falcon Happy Meals. The problem was that they came out almost a year before the movie did, because Disney and Marvel moved the movie back an entire year. McDonald's couldn't just shift the promotion around. But somehow, in the last 4 months, McDonald's has booked this deal onto their offerings at McDonald's at record pace. I don't know if I've seen something go to McDonald's this fast before. They must have cleared the decks for this, knowing what they had. And that means they probably just walked up to Netflix and asked, "How many monies would you want?" The streaming platform reported that K-pop Demon Hunters garnered a remarkable 500 million views since its June 2025 debut, with a sequel now in the works. Earlier this month, the film took home 2 Oscars for Best Animated Feature and Best Original Song. Again, that used to be something that was almost guaranteed to go to Disney every year at the Oscars. For McDonald's, the meals themselves may not be the only sales driver, restaurant industry experts say. K-pop Demon Hunters has appeal amongst almost all age groups. In fact, the McDonald's offer is even described as a, quote, adult meal, not a children's happy meal. Still, the movie is particularly popular with younger audiences, so there's a good chance that parents may end up taking their kids to McDonald's to get a Demon Hunters offering and will then order something for themselves, be it the themed meal or a regular menu item. So yeah, I know you weren't expecting VR to do a K-pop Demon Hunters video, but when you have Hollywood entertainment, business, licensing, marketing, this is all too fun. And it just goes to show the power of a really popular IP and what it can generate, even unexpectedly, for somebody like Netflix that didn't even really put this into theaters until it was an afterthought. And McDonald's just keeps trucking along. The last 5 years of its performance has been one of the best large caps on the S&P 500. And as a matter of fact, if you look real close, with its intraday market cap, $220 billion. Yeah, it's bigger than Disney now. And by the way, if you want a rough idea at what kind of scale this single promotion could have to McDonald's bottom line, check this out. At the end of fiscal 2024, McDonald's reported total revenues of about $26 billion. And they had an EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, of nearly $14 billion. We're talking about a K-pop Demon Hunter Happy Meal, adult or otherwise, that if they're suggesting in the first few days may reach $100 million worth of sales over the course of the entire promotion. What does that mean? $500 million? $1 billion in retail sales? It seems almost impossible, but K-pop Demon Hunters could potentially be as much as 5% of McDonald's bottom line at the end of the year. Now, there's no reporting out there on just how much McDonald's may have paid Netflix for this partnership. Those things are usually tightly guarded corporate secrets. But let me tell you something. The way these contracts could work could be a flat fee, where McDonald's simply says, hey, Netflix, here's $50 million or $100 million. I mean, what's the value of something that's been watched nearly 500 million times around the globe in less than a year? What if there are escalators in the contract that says if you have a certain amount of retail sales over and above the expected, then you have to pay us, Netflix, even more money based on that overage of sales? This could be a big payday for Netflix and for McDonald's too. And it's something amazing when you create a product that everybody wants to watch, at least enough that are going to go to McDonald's and spend $500 million on burgers and fries.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.